The warm afternoon sun lay gently across the quiet western valley as Cole Turner guided his horse along the narrow dirt trail. He had spent the morning repairing fences on the north side of his ranch, and now he rode toward town to pick up supplies. Life had grown routine for him, steady, calm, predictable. At 28, he had already lived through enough heartbreaks to choose silence over excitement. The few friends he had would tease him that he was too serious for someone so young. But Cole simply believed life had taught him to expect little and appreciate what stayed. He never expected that a single voice, soft, steady, and strangely familiar, would shake that quiet world. He had just reached the old river crossing when he noticed a figure standing near the water. But as he came closer, he saw her look up at him with calm, steady eyes, dark, warm, and filled with a meaning he could not read yet. Her long black hair flowed freely over her shoulders, and her clothing, though simple, held the graceful patterns of her Apache heritage. She stood tall, confident, and completely at ease with the landscape around her. Something in her presence made him slow his horse. Before he could greet her, she stepped a little closer and spoke in a quiet, gentle tone that carried more weight than her calm expression suggested. "You don't remember me, cowboy?" she asked, her voice steady. "I'm the girl you loved as a child." Cole froze. For a long moment, he stared at her, unsure if he had heard correctly. His heart beat faster, not with fear, but with confusion. Deep confusion that tugged at an old part of him he rarely thought about. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, unsure what to say. He felt almost foolish. He studied her face more closely. Her features were graceful, familiar in a way he couldn't fully grasp. She seemed to know him better than he knew himself. I'm sorry," he finally said quietly. "Have we met before?" A tiny smile appeared on her lips, not mocking, but patient, almost understanding. "I thought you might forget," she said gently. "It has been many years." Cole dismounted slowly, his boots touching the dry ground. He held his reins loosely, but his attention stayed fixed on her. "You knew me when I was a kid?" he asked. "Back when my family lived near the eastern ridge?" She nodded. "My people camped near your father's ranch every summer," she said. "I played by the river while you tried to catch fish with your bare hands." Her smile warmed. "Remembering. You always fell in." Cole's eyebrows rose. And he actually laughed, the sound surprising him. A distant memory stirred. A little girl with braided hair, running along the riverbank, calling out to him as he slipped into the water. He remembered her laughter, bright, fearless. Her presence had been one of the few simple joys from a childhood marked by hardship. "You're Liana?" he asked slowly, testing the name that rose from the deepest corner of his mind. Her smile deepened with relief. "Yes," she whispered. "I wondered if you would remember." Cole let out a long breath and stared at her with growing wonder. The little girl he had once known was now a strong, graceful woman. She had the same calm eyes, the same peaceful confidence, the same gentle way of standing, as if she belonged to every part of the land around her. "I can't believe it's you," he said softly. "You grew taller," she teased lightly. "And quieter." He chuckled again, rubbing the back of his neck. Life will do that to a person. For a few moments, they simply stood quietly, letting the memories settle between them. The river's calm sound filled the silence with a familiar, almost comforting rhythm. Finally, he asked, "What brings you back here? I thought your family moved farther south." Liana looked toward the distant hills before answering. "My people still travel," she said. "But this year, I chose to return." Her eyes shifted back to him. "I wanted to find someone, a friend I once trusted. Someone who made me feel welcome when I was little." The sincerity in her voice touched something deep inside Cole. He had spent most of his adult life feeling alone, even when surrounded by people. Something about Liana's calm presence felt like the memory of a home he didn't know he missed. "You came all this way to look for me?" he asked quietly. Yes, she said simply. I believed you were still here. He swallowed, moved by the idea that someone had thought of him all these years. What made you think of me after so long? He asked. Liana's eyes softened, and she stepped a little closer, the sunlight catching in her hair. When we were children, she said. You once promised me that if I ever returned, you would meet me by this river. You said you would listen to me, no matter how many years passed. Cole blinked. He had no memory of such words, but hearing them now made him feel unexpectedly emotional. As a child, he had spoken without fear, without the walls he carried as an adult. He wondered what else he had said that he never realized mattered. I'm sorry, Cole said quietly. I forgot the promise. Liana shook her head gently. Forgetting is not the same as breaking it. You are here now. That is enough. Her calmness struck him deeply. She did not accuse or demand. She simply stated the truth with a dignity he admired instantly. Do you have somewhere to stay? He asked. Town's a bit far if you're walking. I camp not far from here, she replied. I travel lightly. Cole hesitated. She seemed comfortable on her own, but the thought of her being alone in these valleys bothered him. Well, if you need anything, water, food, help with gear, my ranch is close by, he offered. You'd be welcome. She looked at him with a warmth that made him feel strangely young, as if he were still the boy standing barefoot by the river. You have not changed, she said softly. You always tried to take care of others. Her words hit him harder than he expected. Most people didn't see that side of him. Many assumed he preferred solitude because he didn't care. Few understood he simply didn't know how to ask for connection. Maybe you're the one who hasn't changed, he said, smiling slightly. Still remembering things. I don't. She laughed, a soft, melodic sound that made the quiet valley feel alive again. You remembered my name, she said. That is enough for today. The wind moved gently between them, a sense of calm wrapped around Cole, something he hadn't felt in years. Will you walk with me a bit? He asked. If you're not in a hurry. Thanks for watching. And to then well kept in that. Quote. Liana nodded. I am in no hurry. Cole tied his horse's reins loosely so the animal could graze nearby, and together they walked along the riverbank. Each step seemed to clear away a layer of forgotten childhood. He pointed out the old tree where he used to hide when he was upset. They laughed at memories half forgotten and shared new pieces of themselves that had formed over the years apart. Cole listened more than he spoke, drawn to the quiet strength in her voice. Liana told him about her travels, the lands she had seen, and the stories she carried. Cole shared the simple truth of his life, the ranch, the routine, the years spent thinking nothing remarkable would ever happen to him again. As the sun slowly slid down the sky, the light turned golden across her face. Cole found himself studying her gently, trying to understand why his heart felt lighter than it had in years. Liana noticed his quiet gaze. You look as if you want to ask something, she said. Cole hesitated. Do you really believe I loved you when we were kids? Liana smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the fading sunlight. Yes, she said with certainty. A child's heart is honest. You were kind to me when others were not. You treated me like an equal. You shared food, laughed freely, and talked about dreams. She paused. If that is not love, then it was something very close. Cole felt warmth rise in his chest, a feeling both tender and unfamiliar. I'm glad you came back, he said quietly. And I'm glad you stayed, she replied. The sun dipped behind the hills, but neither of them felt the need to move. The moment felt like a bridge between two distant lives finally meeting in the middle. For the first time in many years, Cole felt something important, beginning something gentle, steady, and unexpectedly hopeful. Something he did not want to forget again. The next morning arrived with a soft, golden sunrise stretching across the open valley. Cole woke earlier than usual, stirred by a feeling he hadn't experienced since he was a boy, excitement mixed with a quiet, uncertain hope. He sat on the edge of his bed for a long moment, running a hand through his hair, wondering why his chest felt lighter than it had in years. Then he remembered Liana. Her voice, her smile, the gentle way she spoke as if she truly knew him, even though he had forgotten so much. He saddled his horse quickly, unable to stop himself from wanting to see her again. He tried to tell himself that he simply wished to make sure she was safe, that he was being polite, responsible. But the truth whispered something else, something he wasn't ready to fully admit. As he rode toward the riverbank, he found himself hoping she had not left. For a man who rarely hoped for anything, that alone surprised him. When he approached the area where they had talked yesterday, he spotted a small trail of footsteps leading toward the nearby woods. He followed them carefully. After a short ride, he saw smoke rising from a small campfire between two tall pines. Liana was kneeling beside it, gently preparing a small pot of tea over the flames. She looked up before he could call out to her, as if she sensed him approaching. Her smile grew slowly calm, warm, and welcoming. "You came back?" she said softly. Cole dismounted, trying not to look too eager. You wanted to see if I remembered you again," she teased lightly. He rubbed the back of his neck, unable to hide a small smile. "Maybe a little of both." Liana laughed quietly, her eyes shining with morning light. "Sit." He sat beside her, and she handed him a small cup of tea. It was warm, fragrant, and smooth. The simple gesture felt surprisingly comforting. "You sleep well?" he asked. "Yes," she answered. "The land here still feels like home." Cole studied her peacefully for a moment. "Do you plan to stay long?" Liana stirred the fire gently, thinking. "I came here searching for truth," she said. "Now, I must understand what I found." "What truth?" Cole asked softly. She met his eyes. "The truth about you. About us." The words hit him with unexpected force. He didn't know how to respond. No one had spoken to him with such open honesty in many years. Liana continued in a calm voice. "When we were children, you treated me with kindness when others did not. My people and yours often lived with misunderstandings. But you never feared me. You shared your world with me. Even when you were too young to understand the meaning of your actions." Cole felt warmth growing inside him again. The same warmth he felt yesterday. It surprised him how deeply her words affected him. "I'm not that boy anymore," he said quietly. "You are," she replied gently. "You simply learned to hide him." He looked away, unsure how to respond. It was strange how she could see him so clearly without knowing the details of his life. Or maybe she understood the parts of him that had never changed. After a long moment of silence, he finally asked, "What do you want now?" "That you've found me." Liana took a breath, her expression thoughtful but steady. "I want to know if the boy who once cared for me became a man who still holds kindness in his heart." Cole stared at her, realizing she wasn't asking anything difficult. She wasn't seeking promises or declarations. She only wanted truth, and truth was something he could offer. "Yes," he said, his voice firm and honest. "I still try to be kind." She smiled at that answer, soft and beautiful. "I'm glad," she said, "because I need your help." Cole's posture straightened slightly. "Anything," he said before thinking. "Just tell me." She looked toward the west, where a faint trail of dust rose from distant lands. "My people have faced hard seasons," she said. "Some of our horses went missing. Some of our younger members were frightened by unfamiliar voices in the night. I came ahead to understand what threatens us." Cole's eyes narrowed, not with anger but with concern. "We do not know," Liana answered. "But something is wrong." The protective fire inside Cole rose quickly, quiet but strong. He had always taken pride in helping those in need. and hearing that she might be in danger, stirred something fierce inside him. "You shouldn't face this alone," he said firmly. "Tell me how I can help." Liana watched him for a long moment, her gaze softening. "I thought you might say that," she whispered. "I remembered the boy who once stood between me and a wild dog. You protected me without fear, even though you were the smaller one." Cole laughed quietly, shaking his head. "I don't remember that." "I do," she said. "And I want that courage by my side again." Cole felt something shift inside him, something he didn't know he had lost but suddenly wanted back. "You have it," he said simply. They packed her small camp together. Cole insisted she ride his horse while he walked beside her, but she refused with a gentle smile. "I walk with the land," she said proudly. "And you walk beside me." Together, they followed the trail west through quiet hills and tall grass. Along the way, Liana told him more about her people, how they traveled, how they lived with respect for nature, how they listened to stories carried by the wind. Cole found himself listening with genuine interest, feeling connected to her words even though he came from a different world. As they walked, he shared his own life too, his father's passing. The loneliness of running a ranch alone, the quiet evenings where he felt something missing but didn't know what it was. Liana listened carefully, never judging, only understanding. "You carry many burdens," she said softly. "I manage," he answered. "You do more than manage," she said. "You survive. But surviving is not the same as living." Her words struck him deeply. He didn't know how she managed to speak to the parts of him he never voiced out loud. When they reached a small ridge overlooking a broad, open plain, they stopped to rest. Liana looked across the land with an expression that mixed sadness and determination. "My people once camped here," she said. "We would gather berries, hunt small game, and rest by the river. But now we do not come here often." Cole followed her gaze. "Why not?" Because someone left marks of danger," she answered quietly. "Footprints that do not belong to my people. Paths where animals fled suddenly. Broken branches where someone watched from the shadows." Cole's jaw tightened. "Who would stalk your camps?" "We do not know," she said. "But we feel eyes on us." Cole didn't hesitate. "Then we find out." Liana looked at him with gratitude. "You do not have to do this." "I want to," he replied. "You came here searching for truth. I'll help you find it." They continued west until the sun began to lower behind the mountains. Soon, they reached another small clearing. Liana paused, her eyes narrowing. "This is where we heard footsteps at night," she said. Cole examined the ground. He spotted something unusual near a fallen log. A boot print, large, deep, and recent. "Someone's been here," he said quietly. Liana knelt beside him, studying the shape. "Not one of my people." "No," Cole agreed. "This is a rancher's boot." "But not from my land." They followed the tracks until they reached a small, abandoned shed, hidden behind thick bushes. Cole raised a hand, signaling Liana to stay back. She obeyed, but her eyes remained alert, calm, and ready. Cole approached slowly, pushing the old door open. Inside, he found bags of dried grass, old blankets, and a pile of stolen goods, horse reins, leather straps, even a few carved items that clearly belonged to Liana's people. He felt anger rise in his chest, not wild anger, but controlled, protective. He stepped back out and turned to Liana. "You were right," he said. Liana's expression tightened with concern. "We must tell my family." "We will," Cole said. "But we should also be careful. Whoever did this might return." She nodded. As they stood there together, the wind moved softly through the trees, and the sky shifted into warm shades of orange and pink. The world felt strangely peaceful, despite the danger. Liana stepped closer to him, her eyes gentle but steady. "You came with me without hesitation," she said. "You listened, You helped. You remembered the boy you once were. Cole lowered his voice. And you brought back something I didn't know I lost. What is that? She asked gently. Hope, he answered. Liana's smile grew slowly, warm and deep. Then we found something important today. They stood quietly, letting the moment settle between them. The old childhood bond that had once been simple and innocent was returning, but now it carried something deeper, something shaped by distance, time, and truth. When Liana reached out and lightly touched his arm, only a gentle, respectful gesture, Cole felt it like a promise. Not rushed, not heavy, simply true. He looked into her eyes and realized he didn't want this journey to end when they returned to her people. He wanted to walk with her longer, hear her stories, share his own, and build something new from the connection they rediscovered. We'll face whatever comes next, Cole said softly. Together. Liana nodded. Yes. Together. And as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, the cowboy and the Apache beauty stood side by side, no longer children, no longer strangers, but two hearts finding their path back to each other.